Hey there, future policymakers. Welcome back for another deep dive.
It's great to be here.
Today we're tackling a topic that's super relevant for UPSC aspirants.
Absolutely.
It's generating a lot of buzz in legal circles.
Mhm.
We're talking about marital rape and its complex legal status in India.
Right.
We'll be drawing insights from Business Standard today
Okay.
to unpack some key legal provisions,
Sounds good.
landmark judgments, and contrasting viewpoints on this very hotly debated issue.
For sure.
So get ready to sharpen those analytical skills and gain some valuable knowledge.
Yeah.
Definitely both your mains and prelims prep.
Very important.
All right, so let's start by breaking down this complex issue.
Okay.
What exactly defines marital rape, and what does the Indian Penal Code currently say about it?
Well, the core issue is that marital rape isn't explicitly recognized as a separate crime under the IPC.
Okay.
Section 375 of the IPC.
Yeah.
It defines rape,
Right.
but includes this exception 2,
Right.
which essentially exempts husbands from rape charges.
Correct.
If the wife is over 15 years old.
Over 15. That seems
Yeah.
pretty outdated,
It does, doesn't it?
given the current legal landscape.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why it's
Yeah.
become such a hot button issue.
Right.
You know, this exception
Yeah.
creates this legal gray area
Yeah.
that's been challenged in recent court judgments.
Yeah.
And it's fueled ongoing debates.
You mentioned those pivotal court judgments.
Right.
Have there been any significant rulings that have sort of reshaped the legal landscape around marital rape?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most landmark cases
Okay.
is the 2017 Independent Thought versus Union of India case,
Okay.
where the Supreme Court actually struck down Exception 2 to Section 375,
Wow.
but only for wives aged between 15 and 18 years old.
So progress, but not for all married women.
Exactly.
So this judgment only applies to minors because it hinges on the POCSO Act,
You got it.
the Protection of Children from Sexual Offenses Act.
Exactly. The 2012 POCSO Act overrides the IPC
Right.
in cases involving minors.
Makes sense.
So hence the specific application of the Supreme Court's decision.
Okay.
However, for those above 18, the debate rages on.
Yeah, it's interesting how that kind of comes into play there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, given the complexities of this issue, what are the main arguments presented by those advocating for the criminalization of marital rape in India?
So proponents of criminalization argue that every individual,
Yeah.
regardless of their marital status, has a fundamental right
Okay.
to bodily autonomy and consent.
Right.
They contend that exempting husbands from these rape charges just perpetuates inequality and violates key fundamental rights enshrined in Articles 14,
Yeah.
15, and 21 of the Constitution.
It's a compelling argument.
It is.
To deny someone their right to consent simply because they're married seems
Yeah.
fundamentally problematic.
Yeah,
But I'm also curious about the counter-arguments.
sure.
What are the main concerns raised by those who oppose the criminalization of marital rape?
So one of the primary concerns is the potential for misuse of such a law,
Okay.
particularly in emotionally charged situations
Yeah.
like divorce or child custody battles.
Oh, right.
Critics argue that,
Wow.
false accusations could be weaponized,
Right.
leading to wrongful prosecution of innocent individuals.
I see.
They often point to the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act
Oh,
of
yeah.
2005,
Yeah.
asserting that it already offers
Yeah.
sufficient legal remedies
Yeah.
for marital sexual violence.
So one side emphasizes
Yeah.
individual rights and consent,
Yeah.
while the other highlights concerns about legal misuse
Mm,
and potential disruption of marital harmony.
exactly.
It's interesting how this debate intersects with cultural values as well.
Absolutely.
What are some global perspectives on this? Have other countries grappled with similar challenges when it comes to the criminalization of marital rape?
Yeah, the global landscape is actually quite diverse.
Okay.
Many countries, including the UK,
Uh,
the US, Canada, Australia, have fully criminalized marital rape,
yeah.
removing any spousal exemption.
Yeah.
However, numerous other nations are still wrestling with this issue,
Yeah.
reflecting a wide spectrum of cultural and societal norms around the world.
That global context certainly adds another layer to the discussion.
It does.
Where does India stand within this global spectrum, and what are some of the potential solutions being proposed to address this complex issue?
Well, India faces a unique challenge
Okay.
in balancing the protection of individual rights
Yeah.
with cultural sensitivities. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
But several pathways are being explored.
Okay.
These include legislative reforms to amend the IPC,
Okay.
potentially removing or revising Exception 2,
Right.
expanding the scope of the Domestic Violence Act
Yeah.
to explicitly address marital rape,
Okay.
and examining global best practices to identify effective legal frameworks.
Speaking of potential solutions, you mentioned earlier the Jaya-Jaitley Committee and its recommendations. Can you elaborate on that a bit for our listeners, especially those preparing for the UPSC exams?
Certainly. So the Jaya-Jaitley Committee proposed raising the minimum age of marriage for women to 21.
Okay.
Now, while this wouldn't directly criminalize marital rape,
Right.
it aims to address the vulnerability of
Right.
younger brides
I see.
and potentially reduce instances of marital rape within that specific age group.
That's an interesting approach. It seems like a way to protect those most at risk while the broader debate on criminalization continues.
Yeah.
But isn't that sidestepping the core issue of consent within marriage by focusing on age? Do proponents of criminalization view this as a sufficient solution?
That's a great question, and one that really highlights the complexity of this debate.
Yeah.
While raising the age of marriage might offer some protection,
Yeah.
many argue that it doesn't address the root of the problem,
Right.
which is the lack of recognition of marital rape as a distinct crime.
So we're back to the core issue of consent and how the law either protects or undermines that fundamental right within the context of marriage.
Precisely. And this is where the argument for a specific law criminalizing marital rape really gains traction.
Okay.
You know, critics of the current legal framework,
Yeah.
including the Domestic Violence Act,
Uh-huh.
they argue that it doesn't adequately address the unique power dynamics and vulnerabilities
Okay.
that can exist within a marriage.
I see.
They believe that a separate law would send a clear message
Okay.
that sexual violence within a marriage is unacceptable
Right.
and will be met with legal consequences.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the counter-argument we discussed earlier, the potential for misuse of the law?
Right.
How do those who support criminalization respond to those concerns?
Well, they acknowledge the possibility of misuse,
Okay.
but they emphasize that the fear of false accusations shouldn't overshadow
Right.
the fundamental right to consent.
Yeah.
They propose incorporating safeguards within the law to prevent malicious intent while ensuring justice for victims of marital rape.
Could you give our listeners some specific examples of the safeguards being proposed?
Sure.
I'm sure those preparing for the UPSC exams would find this level of detail particularly helpful.
Absolutely. So safeguards could include a clear and comprehensive legal definition of marital rape,
Okay.
robust and impartial investigation procedures to ensure due process,
Gotcha.
and mechanisms to protect the accused from false allegations.
Okay, so a nuanced approach
Exactly.
that acknowledges both the need for protection and the potential pitfalls
Right.
of a new law.
It's about striking that delicate balance
Yeah.
between protecting victims and safeguarding the integrity of the legal process.
What about the argument that criminalizing marital rape could threaten the institution of marriage itself,
Right.
leading to societal instability?
Mm.
How do advocates for criminalization address that concern?
Well, they counter this by asserting that a healthy marriage
Yeah.
should be founded on mutual respect,
Okay.
trust, and consent. Not on a legal exemption that allows for violence or coercion. They believe that criminalizing marital rape would actually strengthen the institution of marriage
Yeah.
by promoting equality and respect between partners.
So it's about evolving the concept of marriage,
Yeah.
recognizing that societal values and legal frameworks should adapt to reflect a more just and equitable world.
Exactly. And this aligns with a broader global trend
Okay.
towards recognizing individual rights and bodily autonomy
Right.
within intimate relationships.
You've provided so much valuable insight into this complex issue, both from a legal and a societal perspective.
Thank you.
Now for our listeners who are on the UPSC journey, what would you say are the most crucial takeaways from our deep dive today?
Well, for UPSC aspirants, a nuanced understanding of this topic is absolutely essential.
Okay.
This includes being able to articulate the arguments both for and against the criminalization of marital rape, demonstrating a clear grasp of the relevant legal provisions,
Right.
citing important judgments like the independent thought case,
Okay.
and being familiar with proposed solutions like the Jaya-Jaitley Committee's recommendations.
Right. It sounds like this is one of those topics where simply memorizing facts won't cut it.
Yep.
You need to grasp the complexities,
Yeah.
analyze different viewpoints,
Yeah.
and form your own informed opinions.
Absolutely. And don't forget the importance of staying updated on current developments
Right.
and legal debates surrounding this issue.
Okay.
This is a topic that's likely to feature prominently in legal and social discourse
Yeah.
in the years to come.
This deep dive has been incredibly illuminating.
Glad to hear it.
I feel like I've gained a much clearer understanding of the nuances of this debate,
Really?
the legal landscape, and the potential implications for Indian society as a whole.
It's a topic that encourages critical thinking and forces us to confront these fundamental questions about consent,
Right.
equality, and the evolution of our legal system.
And for those of you preparing for the UPSC exams, remember that a strong grasp of such complex social and legal issues is key to success.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
This deep dive has certainly given me, and I'm sure our listeners,
Yeah.
a lot to ponder.
Lots to think about.
Before we wrap up,
Sure.
is there anything else you'd like to add for our UPSC aspirants? Any key points they should keep in mind as they continue their preparation?
Yeah, I'd encourage them
Okay.
to delve deeper into the source material,
Okay.
in this case, the business standard articles,
Yeah.
to really gain a comprehensive understanding of the arguments and perspectives presented.
Okay.
Also look for comparative analyses
Okay.
of how other countries have addressed this issue.
Right.
That kind of comparative study
Yeah.
can often provide valuable insights for the UPSC exams.
Excellent advice. Comparing India's approach to that of other nations can definitely provide a richer understanding
Yeah,
and demonstrate a broader perspective, which is something that
absolutely.
I think the UPSC examiners always appreciate.
Sure.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into a very timely and important issue.
It is.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise
My pleasure.
and helping our listeners navigate this complex topic.
Happy to help.
And to all our listeners,
Yeah.
we hope this deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge and analytical tools.
For sure.
You need to tackle this issue not just for the UPSC exams,
Right.
but also as informed citizens engaging in meaningful dialogue.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your questions and thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, definitely.
And a special shout out to Business Standard for providing the insightful source material for today's discussion.
Great source.
Until next time, happy studying.
Yeah. See you later.